What up, peeps? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first Late Night Hobbies WarHammer podcast. I'm Tony.
And I am Cody.
Cody, I understand that you, being the president of Games Workshop, have some brand new news.
If I were the president of Games Workshop, Eldari would not have ran rampant as long as they have. But
And my list would be in Legends.
facts. But yes, we are going to discuss the new codex on the horizon. You know what that codex is, Tony?
It is
Codex Kroot.
Kroot.
Codex Kroot.
Unfortunately, it looks like it's only going to have one detachment, but then for some reason, they're putting 5 detachments in it for Tau. I don't know what the fuck that's about.
Yeah, I don't know why you need Tau attachments in a Kroot book.
People
As
don't even
is advertised by the box, but
okay. Well, while you're doing that, I happen to have some Kroot right here in front of me that I'm going to be working on. So you go ahead and you start where you want to start, and I will let you.
So I was an avid Tau player in 9th edition. So based on that, I am excited for Tau Codex.
Yeah.
However, I have not touched Tau in 10th edition. I've merely been shot to death by them. Whether it be by you or other people at various tournaments. But
I really spared you this evening by comparison.
conceding turn 2,
Much prefer fighting your Tyranids and hope to fight them again. The shooting gallery is really my goal when I play, but whatever, if you want to win, that's on you.
Yeah.
Okay, before can I just say that the 6th edition full art codex, oh my god, it looks good. So excited.
Yes, I absolutely love codex art. Definitely one of the first things that caught my eye. It let me see past the box that is Kroot and see the actual Gundams that we all want to see.
Right. Because it is definitely a strange reveal. I understand that you agree with me on that front. Strange reveal. Not necessarily a disappointment, but just out of left field.
Yeah, I don't think you can call anything where you're getting a new book with new options, varieties, play the game, a bad reveal, unless you're a Dark Angels fan. But the Kroot route was not the route I was anticipating, for sure.
But you know how I am. Cody, I'm a huge advocate for trying new things. You know how I am. I'm always doing something different, always mixing it up.
Yeah, you totally haven't played the same list for the last 6 months.
Played the same list since 10th edition came out. That would be grossly inaccurate.
I remember one game with a Taunar, and outside of that, it's just been Crisis Suit melting my face.
That was the one game where the Taunar was good, and it's never been good since. Games Workshop released 10th edition, and they were like, so anyway, guys, here's a week period where you can get all those dusty models off the shelf. Have fun, because then we're going to start playing real Warhammer, and that's going to be all that is. There's an
they were like, here, we're going to release this new edition, buy this $600 model, and then put it on the shelf as a trophy.
Daniel, welcome to the podcast. I don't know if that's word on the street is Kroot carnivores will have cyclic ion blasters. That's what I'm hoping. So when they say that Kroot, that's a good point. So when they say that Kroot are getting new weapons, new loadouts, and stuff like that, I genuinely think now it's not going to be cyclic ion blasters. But Cody, I believe that you've played against some Vespid Stingwings in tournaments before, and if you will remember, the neutron blasters are basically a cyclic ion blaster with 2 shots, and I am predicting right now that Kroot are going to be able to take neutron blasters.
That would be interesting for sure. I, you know, I can't even begin to comprehend Tau List having more cyclic ions. If Kroot were able to take them, which I don't think they will, but God help us all.
So the neutron blaster is not hazardous. It's inherent AP 2, inherent damage 2, but it only makes 2 shots instead of 3. So I think Kroot could.
I think that's probably better than a cyclic ion blaster.
It probably is, and I think that most of us are pretty much thinking that they're going to get access to for the greater good. I haven't heard anybody say that they dispute that fact, because if you're running 2,000 points of Kroot, there is no detachment rule that is going to be strong enough to make that work if your army hits on 4s. I'm sorry. It's not. It can't be that good.
What if they bring Kroot out with ballistic skill 3?
If they have ballistic skill 3 up inherently, I don't understand
Kroot are cracked.
Well, I'm saying it's like, let's just put Kroot in a normal list and fuck the Tau.
Yeah. Also fair. Are those bugs in the chat?
Are those bugs in the chat? Every time a Kroot model, what do you mean?
Did somebody are those bug emojis?
No, I think that's supposed to be an octopus.
Oh, I thought it was bugs. I thought somebody was giving some Tyranid love.
Ghoul says every time a Kroot model makes an attack weapon, roll a d6. On a 4-up, this model is destroyed.
So
it is
if they have the weapons that you're describing, they should have a rule like that, because otherwise, dear God.
Buying Tau right now. I can hear him ordering Tau right now. But for the uninitiated, this was a reveal about a week ago now, so basically we're getting a Battle Force box. We don't know when it's going to be. Pre-orders aren't live yet. But in the Battle Force box, they've confirmed 2 things. One, that they're going to be giving a lot of attention to the Kroot, if you're a fan of the Kroot, and that the Tau Codex is going to get a special edition, just like Dark Angels, and you're basically going to get early access to it if you buy this Battle Force box. Now, I've got some opinions about the box itself, but I know that there are some people, peons, that think that this is the coolest thing ever to come out. I'm on the fence, honestly. I don't think it's gonna be bad. It's just it's very sealed.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd release. Most releases that I can think of army boxes like this, you got the Dark Angel one, most recent, with the Deathwing Knights and whatnot. I remember in 9th edition, as a avid Templar player, the Templar one was a Crusader squad, and various other Templar themed things, Chaos Knight, so on and so forth. But the point being, you have this brand new shiny codex that's going to be so coveted. People are going to want it. They're going to want it early. People are going to pay the $200 tax, and the tax is Kroot. Like, plain and simple. The tax to get this book early is, as we discussed previously, probably 250 to 300 points of Kroot.
Right. So basically, where that comes from is the Dark Angels. As an example, you're walking away with $200 of Dark Angels models you probably already have, but it's not like...
Well, they're new sculpts.
Right, new sculpts. It's not like it's a bad buy. You may not use them, may not care about them, but they come with the Codex, and it's not going to hurt.
By Tony, based on the points leaks, it's like 700 points worth of models.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, great. Whether or not there's 700 points of good models is a different.
That's up in the air, for sure.
But what I'm saying is that for now, what we've got is, here is a box that has your Codex in it, and models that are gonna sit on the shelf for a minute. Not gonna lie to you. And it's like you brought up. So here's my thing. I don't think that Kroot is going to become some triple the points cost, just god tier models. Everything's got neutron blasters, fusion blasters, all this nonsense. I don't think they're going to walk around being as strong as just a regular Tau battlesuit. That's just not going to happen. So I also don't think that they're going to double in points. So Cody, if you'll scroll down to the contents of this box where they show that big picture of it. So the box comes with 4 Kroot riders. 3 of them are the new variants. 1 of them is just a regular Kroot rider, but I believe they said it was a new sculpt. You've got 2 units of carnivores, so that's 20. And you've got 1 of the new variants of the Kroot Shaper. Now, all of those models in their regular variants, as it stands right now, is 290 points, which means if you want to be generous and say, the new variants, new models, new war gear, 60%. Let's throw 60% on the top. 60%?
I think 60 is super 30, high.
30% on the top. You're talking about a Battle Force box that's 350 points. So if we're being generous, let's just go ahead and say this is a $120 codex that comes with $80 of models in it. And that's So now the benefits to that are, I believe that I'm going to use the term open source. Now, I can't confirm this yet, and I don't believe it says it anywhere in the article, but I would imagine that the Kroot Rider kit will build either Kroot Rider, the new Rampager, or the original Kroot with the gun on the top. The carnivores will remain basically the same. There'll be new plastic kits with new sculpts, new poses, new war gear, and then the shaper, I assume the same as the Kroot, where that shaper that we see in there is going to be able to build the new war shaper, the original Kroot shaper, or the other variant. This name is escaping me at the moment. If that's the case, you've got a little more value, because while you only have, roughly 350 points in the box, you have a large variety of what you can build with it, if that makes sense. There is list building involved here, where you've got several variants of each of these models. It's not like what you see is what you get, is pretty much what I'm assuming is going to be the case.
Yeah, I personally, I kind of disagree with you. Based mostly on the fact that there's only one of the gun variants shown in the box. Just kind of like, are they selling these guys as solos? Because if so, that is terrible value. It's going to be about like the Biovores for Tyranids. So I don't know. I could see the melee ones being a kit of 3, and then the gun variant being a totally different kit that is a solo model, like they currently are sold.
So I believe that Kroot are singles right now.
They are, yeah.
Mistaken, but they can be put in up to sets of 3. So I had assumed that they just put the brand new fancy Rampager in a unit of 3 to show it off on the front of the box, and then the Kroot is sitting back there as like, yeah, these still exist. You know what I mean? So I was kind of thinking get 4 single kits that are like double wide sprues and build either the Rampager or the mounted Kroot.
I could see that. I would. I think that would be a pleasant surprise. I personally wouldn't anticipate that, but
if there are 2 separate kits, one for a Kroot with a gun and one for a Kroot Rampager outside of this box, that is going to be abhorrent for trying to put one of these lists together. Oh,
That's gonna get pricey quick.
I'm trying to tell you, it's not exciting if that is the case, and that's a big if, because we're really just speculating at this point. We don't know what's going to happen, but I look at the box and that's what I see. I see 4 single Kroot Kodex kits, and they've built 3 of them as the Rampager.
Have you talked about what you think the detachment will be?
What do I think the detachment's going to be? So, now, it says in the article, if you could pull it up on screen, Cody, I can't remember the exact quote, but it says something like the detachment is going to, I think it says, allow you to bring 2,000 points of Kroot, which is not against the rules now. I assume what that means is that it's going to be good enough to bring 2,000 points of Kroot. I don't think that the detachment rule itself, what they're trying to say is that it's going to be, hey, only run Kroot with this. It's, I don't think it's going to be like just Kroot.
Yeah, it says allows you to deploy an all Kroot force.
Right. So I'm thinking it's going to be really strong for Kroot, but I'm not seeing it as like, I assume they'll still be able to blend with the Tau. And it would be kind of weird if that turns out to not be the case, in my opinion. But so I'm still
I have an idea of what it might be. I bet you what they'll do, because Kroot right now can't take advantage of the Tau's army rule. So I bet you they'll have one specific detachment that says if your entire army has the Kroot keyword, that they can take advantage of the Tau army rule.
That's pretty much what I think as well. I'm pretty much hedging my bets that the detachment is going to give Kroot access to further greater good, like you said, which is going to allow them to spot and guide for each other if they're eligible to shoot. And from what I'm pretty much expecting from the Tau Codex as a whole, every detachment kind of looks like they're going to get a secondary buff from being guided. And I've said it to Cody before. I believe that for Kroot, what that's going to be is guided models get lethal hits. Just because when you look at what the Kroot is and what they have and everything, they've got fairly good weapons and everything, but what they don't have, as bad as strength is for Tau, it's worse for Kroot, and I would be impressed if they didn't have some kind of access to lethal hits, because they've got fair amounts of AP, especially compared to Tau rather. But what they don't have is vast amounts of strength, and that could also be fixed. If the new models come out and they have like these badass guns, you're talking about neutron blasters and stuff like that. That could be the case as well. But if it's not, I'm pretty much expecting the detachment rule to give them some kind of access to lethal hits.
So I personally picture this Kroot detachment working very similarly to the Tyranid Unending Swarm. I think you're just going to have to jam-pack a lot of bodies on the field and try to more or less bog your opponent down and score a lot of points. And you're not going to kill a dang thing.
Well, and speaking of Unending Swarm, it's interesting that you say that. So I think it's going to work really similarly to Gene Stealer cults. And I don't know if it's from a stratagem. I don't think it's the detachment rule. I think it's going to be a stratagem. But if you look down the bottom of this article, it mentions specifically that you're going to be able to field a full list of Kroot. And I can't remember the word it uses. It's a synonym of, basically it says, and replenish them. So I'm expecting an Imperial Guard Gene Stealer cult type stratagem where Kroot are going to be able to resurrect a unit when it's destroyed.
That would make sense.
And it's on strat reserves.
That would make sense. I just picture this detachment being a absolute nightmare to try to build and play. Also, at
What do you
least
mean?
at any form of competitive level.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. It's just because, as we're seeing with the codexes as they come out, the real competition is just, can this be better than the launch detachment? And in a lot of cases, the answer has been no.
Yeah, Tyranids for sure. I will say so. I think that stands true for Tyranids and certain builds of Space Marine. However, Necrons and AdMac, which first off, my personal opinion is Tyranids and Space Marines, they were written before 10th edition launched. I think we can all agree on that.
Well,
They're essentially expanded indexes. And with that, Necrons and AdMac were the first true codexes of 10th edition. And if you look at tournament results with them, I mean, the can't think of the name of it, but the teleporting detachment for Necrons, I mean, it just won LVO. And honestly, it may be the worst of the two good detachments, me personally, but
yeah.
you know, so and same thing with AdMag. The index detachment is kind of in the trash can, and people are taking can't think of the name of it either, but the one that gives you stealth and whatnot. So I think that I can see, because 50% of the codexes have been codex index so far, but I don't think that will be the case going forward personally.
And I hope that that's true. I surely hope that's true. But at the same time, we just don't have enough of them out yet to really, save.
I hate that Dark Angels isn't going to be a true representation of what could be, because it looks like they're going to get kneecapped before they get out of the gate, just based on their data sheets. So we're not really going to get a idea with a technical third codex.
Cat needs to put a link to the stream.
I believe she did.
Well, maybe I'm missing it. I'm looking. I'm reading the message now. And I'm kind of reading it passively, but I didn't see a link to the stream itself. Which shout out to Kat, by the way, our technical, our IT girl in the background, making all this possible.
Yeah, we had the Stream God trying to set this up, and it just wasn't panning out.
Where are we
Stream
at now?
God being Tony.
Where are we at now? You, my friend, are live. It's because of my streaming expert. I actually taught Ninja everything he knows. That's a little known fact. Actually, I actually set up Ninja's stream.
Wow.
But
knew?
For anybody watching, welcome, and we have a link in the description for our official Discord. We're going to post stuff like painting on there, stream schedules, battle reports. We're gonna do a lot with the Discord, so don't miss out. Basically, just going to throw that out there. While I'm seeing we've got some people viewing, I am just painting Kroot right now. So what you're saying is basically is you're thinking, if the goal wasn't to run 2,000 points of Kroot, what's the point of focusing on them? Just new sculpts. I believe that may have been it. So it's not necessarily, don't think the goal is to run 2,000 points of Kroot. It would just be weird, basically where my head's coming from is they're an auxiliary, and they've always been in the game to like mesh with the Tau. And if it's not the 2,000 point detachment itself, then it's possible we'll get a second detachment design. Think the Daleth Sept from 9th edition, the way that it gave Kroot access to the army rule and just made them mesh better with the army, basically, is what I'm saying. I would be impressed if the Codex came out and turned it into basically two different armies. I just realized I was answering Kat's message. I was about to be like, thank you for the question. And I was like, oh, that's like Kat Nicole. I was like, isn't that Kat? I was like, oh shit, dumbass.
So, do you want to talk about what could be tomorrow?
I thought you'd never ask.
I can't express how excited I am to potentially get to play with my bugs again.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah, probably not, but we can dream. But quarter one of 2024 data slate could be tomorrow, based on all signs. What do you think, Tony?
So, I mean, I think it's definitely happening. Everybody's saying that it's happening, and when you get that hive mind going for news, pretty much confirms it. Although, unless you want to talk about the Fulgrim reveal, but I see that as more as GW's fault.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of things around the board are just going to get points drops, but I think a lot of things are going to stay the same. I think Votann might get some slight point increases, but I don't think that's going to be drastic because they just made that army remotely playable.
Hey, they had I believe two of the top 8 at LVO. I know 2 of the top 16 at LVO were the mighty, the short kings.
I'm just going to bullet point list things off the top of my head from a couple armies.
Well, I want to start with 2, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Number 1, what is it going to take to rein in the kings of 10th edition, the Eldari? I have my opinions, but I'm interested to hear yours.
My opinions are key models. I think the Yakarn's going up in points. That's pretty much a given. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. But this is a data slate, so we're also going to see some rules changes. I think that what the hell's the name of the one? The one we were talking about the other day that the broadsides handle really well because they don't have an invuln. What the hell were we talking about? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever that model was, it's played consistently and competitive. I bet you that's going up in points as well. But the main thing is, if they want to fix Eldari, they just need to change one word, 2 letters in the entire index, and I think it'll fix it. Farseers. His ability, where when he's within 12 inches of another Eldari model, he changes it to a unmodified 6. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If they change that rule to a modified 6, Eldari goes down 2%, 3%. I guarantee it.
So I'm of the opinion of 2 things. 3 things, really, because that's a very good point. I 100% agree with that. I think that needs to be a modified dice. But second, I think they need to change the wording of fate dice in general to count as modified. For the simple fact of being able to proc death wounds and whatnot with them.
The reason why I don't think that is just because it's kind of the whole identity of the army itself, where it's like if you just took away the ability to proc that stuff anyway, it almost breaks the army, in my opinion. A lot of the models, a lot of the data sheets are designed around those abilities, in my opinion, from what I've read. And I'm not like an expert on Eldari or anything, but I just feel like if the fate dice didn't proc, sustain hits, if they didn't proc lethal hits, when you used it, I just can't even see it really being worth it. Guaranteeing a hit doesn't guarantee damage. You know what I mean?
Well, so I think that what it could do is bring more value to the threes, the fours, the fives on the fate dice roll.
But that's value spent on charges. That's value spent on advances. They're dice that get used or dumped into a Farseer. It's not that they don't see use, but on the other hand, if you remove that and you make the whole army rule modified, you've just taken away all the value from the fives, and especially from the sixes. You've made rolling that nat 6 at the beginning of the game. Yes, the army's less swingy, but you've completely dismantled the usefulness of saving anything that's not a 4-up. You know what I mean? Anything that's
Yeah.
is all you need.
So I don't disagree with you. However, I'm of the opinion that Eldari is at a point to where they need to be dismantled. They need to break this army, and then kind of like Tyranids in 9th edition, because Tyranids were never at the point that Eldari is. They never even dreamed of it. But they eventually just put Tyranids to sleep, so to speak, by hitting them so hard that the army was on the verge of being unplayable. And then you can kind of fine tune from there. But plain and simple, I don't think personally you can have another soft-handed approach to them and let them run the meta for another 6 months. I don't think GW can allow that.
That could be true, but what you also have to take into account is while Eldari is still the most competitive army in the game, they are no longer the only army winning, and the more that they tailor the other indexes to where they can play competitively, basically making the whole rest of the game better, stops the reign of terror for Eldari without necessarily kicking Eldari's dick in. Votan is a big example of that, because from looking at Goonhammer and stuff, they've been sitting on like a solid 53, 54% win rate since the last data slate. And while that's not 57%, it's a low tier army that just a couple tweaks was able to climb from 33% win rate and damn near double what they were doing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just the problem I foresee with Eldari is there's a clear cut king of the meta Eldari list, and it is Wraithguard, Triple Night Spinner, Incarn, and your flavor from there.
That's the one I was thinking of. The Night Spinner is going up in points.
Yeah, I think the Night Spinner needs more of a fix than points, but I fear that if you just kind of hit those units, so the rest of the index is still better than any other index. And that's why I think a drastic change is needed. Warzone Atlanta was a perfect example. The man who went 7-0 at Warzone Atlanta, he didn't have Night Spinners in his list. He didn't have Wraithguard in his list. He didn't have the Incarn in his list. He didn't have the Avatar King in his list. He had a hodgepodge of the rest of the Eldari index and still went 7-0 at one of the most competitive tournaments in the Southeast. That's how strong their index is as a whole.
I can kind of understand that. I can, but nerfing the army rule makes that impossible. You're basically condemning, in my opinion, the meta. If people are running certain things with Eldari, and one guy's able to scratch out a really solid tournament run because the army itself is good, but then you make the army itself bad, now it's just a competition of, all right, I guess I've got to go buy all the shit that was good because this is the army that I play. It's about to be with more points. It's about to be Night Spinners that cost more points, but nothing's really going to change.
Fair. Yeah. So the second army, I think we can talk all till we're blue in the face about Eldari. The second army I would like to talk about is the undisputed number 2 army in the meta, and some would argue number 1. because it's better in the matchup itself, and that is Chaos Space Marine.
Now that is a I'm gonna let you steer the ship on that one because I have played very few games against Chaos Space Marines, and it's not been with people on a level to where I've been like, yo, what just happened? It's been like what was all this about? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Chaos Space Marines have the undisputed most damage potential in the game. Like, plain and simple. Like, if you step out in front of a Chaos Space Marine army and you think you're gonna survive and just take your lumps and move on, you will get tabled turn 2. Like, I cannot. If you've never played a game against a true Chaos Space Marine list, like, they can kill just at will. And I mean, they can legitimately pick up your entire army in a single turn, almost. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Just they're another army that, like, their army rule is so good. Every activation, they just make a leadership test, and they either get sustained or lethal hits, and they have access to 4 rerolls to hit and wound.
With the damn obliterators, they get both.
Yeah, true.
Or why not both? Have your cake.
Yeah, why not both? It's whether it's a Forge Fiend sitting on their table edge, blasting you downfield, and then 1 CP it's lone op, or it's a 10-man chosen with a Lord coming out of a Rhino and hitting with the force of God. Like, you pick the poison. Like, I mean, they just have so many good units, and they hit so hard.
Noise Marines are such a WTF unit, to be honest, because it's like they don't look very intimidating, and then they do 1 turn of shooting, and you're like, what the hell did I just get hit by? Roll that back.
And Noise Marines, like, aren't even, like, you will not see a competitive list with Noise Marines in it. And I mean, it's the same. Like, a lot of people are kind of like stuck in 9th edition when they hear Chaos Space Marines. They're like, oh yeah, 10 Terminators and Abaddon. Terminators aren't even currently good enough. Like, they don't make the cut in the top lists. Like, nobody's running them because they have other stuff that is just 100% better. And I think, in my personal opinion, with Chaos Space Marines, they need a across the board take the top meta units, and they need to go up. That list needs to go up by about 150 points. They need to lose 2 units.
Yeah, I could probably get behind that. It doesn't sound like the most impressive thing in the world. Now, like, bullet points, Necrons. I think we'll see Immortals go up marginally. I think Wraiths are going up. I think now with Voton, minor points tweaks. Like I said, I don't think they're going to do anything major with Voton. They don't really have enough units to where you could nerf something particularly without breaking the whole damn army again.
Votan, I think, is in a really healthy spot. Bullet point to add to Necrons is the Satan. I think they all need to go up about 15 points.
Well, let's just go ahead and say it. Avatar of Cain is, I think he's like 350 round numbers.
Oh no, my good man, he's like 320.
Either way, the fucking Nightbringer has no business being less than 350 points.
Oh my god.
No.
He has no business being under 300, that's for sure. Like,
it's the fattest cap in this entire game right now. I would face down a Wraith Knight with 12 Nat 6s in his deck, then go up against a fucking Nightbringer.
Like, Robert Roebuck Gilliman is 360 points and would get his absolute cheeks clapped by the Nightbringer.
It's that there's no. The thing is that that's probably the only. I would say that's the only data sheet in the game that I'm aware of right now that there is no good answer to deal with. It doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter what you're going up against. There's usually an answer that every army can put forward to deal with it in an effective way. But the only effective way to deal with the Nightbringer is put 18 inches between you and him in every turn, period.
The only thing in my experience that can handle the Nightbringer and handle it relatively consistently
Is another Nightbringer.
No. The only thing, in my opinion, that can handle him relatively consistently is a 6-man aggressor unit with fire discipline.
Right. If you're not doing damage 1, you're trolling.
Yeah, you're wasting your time if you're doing anything but damage 1. And so you just hand your opponent 30 saves and say, hey, make 34 ups and then make, 15 5-ups.
It's
and,
8. Get on with your day.
Well, it doesn't matter. They just have a 4-up, 4-up. So they're going to take their 4-ups regardless.
The only other thing I would say is I believe that a good answer for the Nightbringer is a I want to say I haven't really seen it, but I feel like Johnson could still take him. And I think a Night Lancer could take him off the table in an activation.
So I have killed a Nightbringer in 1 activation from a Lancer. Well, you said Night Lancer. I've killed one in 1 activation from a Gladiator Lancer. The problem is it comes down to can your opponent roll a 4-up. My opinion with the Lion would be I think it would just be a standoff. I think they would sit there and swing on each other for 2 or 3 turns. Magnus does not one-shot.
Magnus does not one-shot the Nightbringer. You are outvoted. Get that out of my face. No, the half damage is the strongest thing, and that's why I say that the Lancer...
What's half damage with a field open?
What are you talking about, dude?
So, I say that the Lancer walks up, throws 5 damage on him from a tank shock, and then with 5 attacks at 2 up, 2 up, and he's still putting through 4 damage apiece. I think a Lancer could kill it in 1 activation. But that's like, you're talking about every army in the game, and we've named 3 data sheets that we even think could feasibly do it.
I know
Magnus one-shots the Nightbringer all day. What are you talking about?
Magnus can't even...
Does he have like 9 wounds?
12.
12. Okay, well...
Half damage.
Still.
Half damage.
Yeah, well, half damage takes damage 3 to damage 2.
5-up, feel no pain.
Yeah, 5-up, feel no pain. Don't forget about that. Let's roll it. He said, let's roll it right now.
I'll roll it right now. What's the toughness of the Nightbringer?
12.
No, it's not.
Yes,
I think it's toughness 11.
Oh, it might be 11. Let me pull it up.
No, that is cap.
Dude, that's
I'm
what
100% sure it's at least 11.
I did 15 damage to it with Norn, Neurolictor, and a Tyrannifex. Just healed enough to live. Oh, that's true. I forgot that it heals. That's so true.
Yeah, don't forget that. If you leave it alive, it will get stronger.
Although I think the real question here is, why were you running a Tyrannifex? Have you read the Codex yet?
Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on the Tyrannifex.
I don't mean guy.
We don't talk about the Tyrannifex.
We don't talk about the Tyrannifex in here. I realize you might be new to the stream, so Cody doesn't like to talk about the Tyrannifex.
Worst unit in the Tyrannic Codex.
It surely's not the worst.
All right, so Magnus does 3d3 attacks. Let's assuming he's on his invuln. I'll do the strat to reroll all hits and wounds. So I roll the 3 dice, and oh look, I rolled a 6 and 2 5s. Max hits. So that's 9. And he's hit on 2s. Is he -1 to hit?
No.
If he was, I'd be dead.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's Magnus. So hitting on 2s, I'll proc sustained hits on 6s. Got them all except for 1. Oh, bada bing. So that's 9 plus 1 is 10. Toughness 11, that's tough to get through. Strength 9, but +1 to wound means I'm wounding on 4s.
Well, you do this on
Rerolling
your own time.
with. We got all night, baby.
Fucking bullshit.
I bet you just come back to us with the answer.
Yeah, why don't we do it on the real table in a real game and let me know how it goes. I'm gonna proxy Farsight as the Nightbringer, and I'm gonna kill you in 1 activation. Because
I'll just borrow Josh's Necron army. We can play it.
Yeah, Magnus has 16 wounds. The range damage and melee damage on the Nightbringer is D6 plus 2 with devastating wounds.
Anyways, I feel like we went down the rabbit hole of the Nightbringer.
I'm trying to tell you. Well, it's because Clay came here and started trolling.
Clay came out of the bushes with Magnus and just
It's like no matter like as much as y'all make fun of me for like the Enclave and Farsight and Tau and everything, it's like you can literally say anything. I could post a picture on Facebook of my firstborn son, at the hospital, and he would reply and be like, "Not as cool as Magnus."
well, he would reply, Clay from the top rope. Magnus would one-shot him.
Magnus with one shot. that is not capping. Yeah, I know you truth it.
Well, I just rolled it out. In Magnus's shooting phase, he takes half of the Nightbringer's health down. Then he charges him with his Dev Wound staff and finishes him off.
Okay, well,
One shots him.
Clay, we're going to get that on the table soon.
Well, the other thing is, I can't seem to convince Clay what the hell the term one shot means because he made 15 attacks with Magnus, then charged, then made 7 attacks with Magnus. So you 21 shot him, but whatever.
Same thing.
Nothing can one shot the Nightbringer because nothing has a gun that deals enough damage to one shot the Nightbringer.
Wait, isn't there something that does like 20 damage?
20 damage.
That's the Tyrannofex, but we're not going to talk about it.
No, that's just 12.
I know, I was joking.
No, it's like even a Taunar puts a 16 damage a shot goes to 8 damage a shot plus a feel no pain, so that's 6 damage a shot if they go through. The Taunar would have to dev wound like both of his attacks and not choke on the feel no pain to kill it with 2 shots.
What army is
I
that?
could have swore there was something that did 24 damage.
It would have to deal 24 damage to kill him in one hit, and even then, it goes to damage 12 from 24, and then the feel no pain mathematically says it's 10 damage, which doesn't one-shot him. Nothing one-shots the Nightbringer.
You got a hard on for the Nightbringer.
Yeah, we really did go down the rabbit hole. This was like a Kroot stream, and then we were talking about the... Anyway, what I was trying to say was... Nightbringer goes up...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The Bellicosa Volcano Cannon from the Warlord Titan is D3 plus 3 attacks. Each do 18 damage.
Doesn't one-shot the Nightbringer.
Doesn't one-shot him.
So anyway, I think the Nightbringer goes up. I think Wraiths go up. I think that Immortals probably go up a few points. For Tau, I see Crisis Suits going back to 195. But honestly, more than that, I see all the characters going up. I really don't think a lot of the models themselves are going to get messed with. I think broadsides are fine. I think the Ghost Kill's fine. They're not going to do anything else to help the Riptide. They just pretty much made him a Legends model at this point. But I do think we're going to see all the characters go up because that's going to make the most meaningful impact on what gets played. I think the characters are way too inexpensive, and they're what's making the Crisis Suits as effective as they are. Crisis Suits, I run them with Cyclic Ion Blasters. It's a big threat. You know what makes them a huge fucking threat? 18 inches with Assault. You know what makes them a huge fucking threat? Inherent rerolls. Now, the Enforcer Commander can pretty much stay where he's at because that's a 0% play rate, is what it is. Black Templars, I think Hellbrick goes to Legends. No big deal.
Yeah, I think Templars, I think Hellbrick goes 10 to 15 up minimum. I think Sword Brethren probably go up 10.
I do. Okay, so joking aside, I do think that probably Sword Brethren and like you said, are going to go up a little bit just because Templars are really strong. But I think a lot.
Yeah,
I think that has more to do with like rules. Yet again,
I think Templars are going to kind of get they're going to get caught up in the fact that they're also Codex Space Marines, and so they're going to take some Templar specific nerfs, and then they're going to take some Space Marine nerfs because Scouts are going up. That's undisputed. They are heinous for 55 points. Inceptors are going up. really, that's outside of that. Like, I don't think Marines need much touching overall.
Marines are sitting pretty where they're at.
Yeah, I think
The one
they're fine. Like, one player in the world has cracked the Vanguard detachment. That's a top 5 player in the world. So
well, I mean,
you can't punish the rest of us mortals for his transgression.
right.
GW has done it before, but
Waiting for somebody to crack the whoops all tanks Space Marine list that he who shall not be named.
that list doesn't exist.
I talked to Ronnie today. He's not bringing the Estrellas to Moxie. Just throwing that out there.
Okay,
It was a joke. That was a joke.
Moxie is full of some dogs, so good luck to the boys down there.
I warned him. I said, y'all gonna be in some trouble.
There are some big fish in that fucking pond.
Uh,
World Eaters.
Sorry. I really don't think that Tao's going to get messed with a huge amount just because you're about to get a Codex. I don't think Dark Angels a lot because they're about to get a Codex. Knights. I see Knights getting huge points cuts, but probably not getting much rules changes. I think they're going to wait for the Codex before they give the Armiger abilities back.
No, because Knight's Codex isn't on the horizon. Like, it is not on the 40k roadmap. I personally, I think Knights will get their Armiger rule back, and along with points cuts, and I think that puts them at fine. I think that puts them back into the 50% ballpark.
I think that the Storm Surge gets another large points cut just because, yet again, we're talking about shit like the Avatar of Cain is, what'd you say, 320? The Nightbringers?
320, yeah.
Yeah, some shit like that. Fucking Storm Surge is still 405 points. Get it. Come on now. What? What?
Speaking on that, I think my man Bobby G, I think he's gonna drop a considerable amount. Same thing with the Lion. I think he'll drop a good bit. By the way, I don't know if you saw how badly he got nerfed.
Well, I mean, the biggest nerf to him was Death Wounds not being mortals anymore. He needs to get inherent 4-up feel no pain.
Well, I disagree with that. Well, we've seen his data sheet. He's not getting that, but he lost his -1 to wound ability, along with his sweep profile went to damage 1. So, yeah, he took a pretty big hit. So hopefully he sees it on the back end in points. World Eaters. I think personally, World Eaters are in a good spot. I don't think they need much messing with. I think their board is pretty. I think they're in a similar spot as Thousand Suns.
Right.
In that their data sheets are really good, their army abilities are really good, but they don't have a lot on the board, so they can still be managed by good players.
Right.
So I think both of those armies. I think Thousand Suns needs a few points cuts to specific units that aren't seeing play, like Terminators, but outside of that,
yeah, I think
not much.
Come down for Thousand Suns. I want to say the Vortex Beast will come back down, but I just don't think that they will do it. I think that they should do it, but I don't think that they will do it. But like you said, Terminators probably come down, and the inverse of Tau, I think we'll see characters for Thousand Suns come down in points, namely like unnamed sorcerers, stuff like that, just because the characters in this edition are so impactful on how strong a unit is. And some of the penalties for bringing certain characters that just don't do a whole lot is really high. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't even tell you what like an exalted sorcerer is. I can just tell you that it's too much for what it does.
Oh, let me tell you. So I see points caught something that would be fair, especially for Marines, would be something like 5 points a model. Nothing crazy. Terminators probably are the ones that need to come down the most. 400 something points.
A lot of points.
Well,
5
that's
points a unit.
no, like So a
5
10-man
points a model
block
is
of rubrics.
that's 50 points.
Well, maybe
That's way too much.
like
Like
10
2 to 3
points.
points.
Yeah, something like that. 2 to 3 points a model. So just enough to where it's not anything crazy, but it takes that unit of rubrics that, for a 5-man block, you're looking at. See if I pull it up here. A 5-man block of rubrics is 105 points. I think they could probably go down to 100 or 95, but the
95
big
range, I
one,
think is fair.
the big one is the Terminators, because why would I spend 430 points to bring 10 Terminator? Yeah, they got a 4-up invuln, they got 3 wounds. Yeah, they can make use of that one wombo combo strat, but it's so expensive to use and pull off, and it's such a situational thing that you're never gonna find that spending all those points is worth it.
Right.
The Vortex Beast, I think, is fine. I think the Demon Prince, really good model. For 180 point, I think it could come down to 165, 170. Um,
So
and then like you said about the characters, bring each character down 5 or 10 points.
no, I
10 might
think
be a little bit of a stretch, but
like I think if they leave, they need to do more modifications on characters than anything else. Forget less. Obviously Terminators need to come down, but instead of Rubric Marines going down in points, if they would just make, holy shit, man, an Exalted Sorcerer is 100 points, and the only thing that he does is gives the unit a 4-up invuln, which is not a bad ability, but it's not game breaking. You've got characters in this game that are way, way stronger than that are sitting on 120. Come on.
Hellbrick is 95 points.
Hellbrick is 95 points. Why is an Exalted Sorcerer, a regular fucking wizard, 100 points? And
I think a good add to all of the Chaos factions. So CSM, Demons, Thousand Suns, all of them would be, like Clay said, the Demon Princes. I think they're really good units, but they are just way over they're considerably overpriced at the moment.
yeah, and I agree. Like I said, there are some instances of models, units that can be tweaked, but I think, when you're talking about Rubric Marines coming down in cost, I don't think the Rubric Marines themselves need to. I think the characters that you almost have to put in the unit needs to, because it makes the unit better without just like making everything in the index cheaper. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think it's the opposite for Tau. I think Tau, the characters probably come up, and I think for honestly, I could see for all of them, but just straight up Space Marines, I could see the characters coming down a little bit. In all of Nurgle, Thousand Suns, maybe Korn, but I doubt it. But I could definitely see
Corn characters slap.
But just the ones that lead units and stuff, I could definitely see that. And there's a few armies that are like that, honestly.
Yeah, so I got an army list up, so we can just kind of go through the last few that we hadn't touched. Adeptus Sororitas. Honestly, I think they're fine. You could maybe trim a little more points off, just give them another unit or two. But they've clearly, since people have figured out that you can't play the 9th edition playstyle of Bloody Rose where you just melee people to death. So people have kind of figured out the new 10th edition playstyle with them. And so I think they're fine. Adeptus Custodes. This is an army that I do think needs some fundamental changes. I think they need some points breaks off the top. Their characters. You want to talk about expensive characters? Go look up a Custodian captain. They're outrageous. But they also, I think that you could, I'm not going to say fix that army, but you could drastically help it by simply giving them an army-wide 4-up. I don't know how you would word it, but their 4-up army-wide Feel No Pain to mortals needs to apply to Death Wounds. Because I think that was a unintended nerf by GW to them.
Well, you could just make it anytime a critical wound is made against one of your models, they get a Feel No Pain whether or not it's got Death Wounds. You rolled a 6, cool. I'm gonna roll Feel No Pains against that.
Yeah,
and be cracked.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know if I would go that far. Otherwise, I might start playing Custodes. I have 3,000 points sitting in my back room. I'll gladly break them out.
Oh, so Jack, the Kroot Kodex thing was kind of just a little in joke about how Kroot are getting a lot of attention and will be highly featured in the Codex. We don't necessarily think that they're literally getting one.
Yeah, it was more a joke than anything.
Which one? While we're back on the subject of Tau, I wanted to mention one rule I'm really excited to see hopefully come back from 9th. I've mentioned it before. Is Master of the Killing Blow, which I hope will come back as an enhancement in Montka, or maybe if we get some kind of Farsight centric detachment. Like, hell, we used to have a Farsight Enclave Codex. It's not outside the realm of possibility. But basically, Master of the Killing Blow in 9th edition allowed you to ignore things like damage caps and Feel No Pains. And it would be really interesting to see an ability that just allowed you to ignore the Feel No Pain ability when you attack. And I think that would make things like it would make a lot of things cool. It would make a lot of things.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but I personally despise that idea with every fiber of my being.
I know
because
you
do. And I don't say that to shit on Tau. I say that from a game balance standpoint. I feel like if they do that, you're just going to turn into the cycle of 9th edition, in which this rule trumps this rule, this trumps this rule, and I don't want to see that back in the game. I don't want to see Royal Rifles ignoring Inloans kind of deal back in the game.
I got you. Like, I'm not saying let's go back to Demon Saves. I'm just saying it would be cool to have an ability, because Dev Wounds is basically a critical wound that ignores an invuln. It would be cool to see if Master of the Killing Blow came back as like a critical wound could ignore a Feel No Pain, and then you could stack that with
that. In my opinion, that just starts that cycle. You're just writing rules to ignore other rules, and that's a slippery slope, in my opinion.
The Kroot are just Floridians. Yeah, they're basically turtle people.
Basically.
And I agree with that. On a crocodile, which is so. I'm probably going to give mine a cowboy hat now that you said that.
Back down the army list if you're good.
No, we're good. My rules don't matter. It's okay.
Astra Militarum. So I have two methods of thinking on Astra Militarum. If I'm in a tournament and I look across the table and I'm playing Astra Militarum and I see 3 of the big indirect guns, I know I'm in for a game. If I don't see those, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bad spot for them to be in. So I hope that, honest to God, I don't know enough about Astra Militarum to give any fixes, but I hope GW comes up with something for them to prevent that from being a thing.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, Astra, it's just one of those lists that when we're going out and we're playing competitively, I'm not going to lie to you, Cody. When I get my matchups and I see I'm going against Astra, I'm like, thank God. I don't even got to try. It's
well, they're a all-shooting army that isn't great at shooting with most of their units. And so that just, I mean, plain and simple, that hurts.
It is.
What was that?
It is a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. Like, I mean, you look at the top tier, all shooting monophase armies. Tau, Botan, Astra Militarum, and it's just like it's not close. Like you got Tau, you got Botan. If I got to play them, I'm scared of getting shot off the board. If I got to play Astra Militarum, that is not a fear. Unless there are 3 Basilisks in the back, then I am mildly concerned.
Right, but that's just like playing 3 Whirlwinds, but worse. I want to imagine
disagree. I think they're better than Whirlwind.
Space Florida rolls up on a rock with Tau, not for the greater good, because they got Gator people. So Ronnie makes a good point. One thing I was really disappointed about, which granted we don't know for sure yet, is that they doubled down on Kroot. I don't necessarily mind doubling down on auxiliaries, but it just sucks, man. All we're getting is Kroot. Did they forget that the Tau have several auxiliary races? Why didn't we get a couple new Vespid models? Why didn't we get a brand new auxiliary? Why don't we have an auxiliary?
It's Codex Kroot, Tony.
Why is it
Get
just...
over it.
It's like basically the Tau walks up to a bunch of homeless guys and gives them $1 to shoot at people. That's exciting. And I wanted more homeless people in my list.
Next on the list, Blood Angels.
They suck. Banned.
So, Blood Angels So, first off, if you're playing Blood Angels, you're playing Gladius. And if you're not playing Blood Angels, or if you're not playing Gladius and you're playing Blood Angels, you're wrong.
You're a dumb
Yeah, you're there for fun, not to win.
Get out of here.
Which, hey, teach their own. But I think I played a game against Blood Angels relatively recently, and I got hit by a brick of Sanguinary Guard. And I was like, God, these guys really slap. And then you see their points cost, and you're like, dear God.
That's going to be a huge winner. I'm definitely not going to be surprised if Sanguinary Guard comes down quite substantially tomorrow.
Yeah, Sanguinary Guard need to drop like 40 points tomorrow. And if that happens, I think Blood Angels and Gladius will be a viable army. Because Death Company and Sanguinary Guard hit like trucks, and they're fast, which, that's the keys to winning at 40k.
Right. Shit be zooming.
Chaos Demon. So, my opinion on Chaos Demon is they're a really hard army to balance, because when you pull the lever of Chaos Demons, you pull the lever of 5 other armies.
Right. That's so true.
And that is challenging. I don't really know a good fix for Demon.
It'll probably be rules more than points for that reason.
Yeah. Again, though, I don't really know what you do to their rules to fix them. Yeah, they're a tough one. They're demons, in my opinion, are best as allies, which is not a good place to be as a demon player, but it's a good place to be as a chaos player.
Yeah.
I've seen some people say that data sheets abilities work differently if they're allied, which is a thought, but I don't know that I think that may be too complicated to fix. I don't know that that's necessarily a good fix, but I have seen that out there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, and I just don't see that being the direction that they go, not necessarily because it's a bad, but because the whole edition is being advertised as simplified, not simple. So I don't see them being one army of just going back to 9th edition rules, basically. It's like, let's just write everything. Yeah. The list building is complicated again. I just don't see it myself, personally.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, I think, I don't have a good answer for them. Under the Chaos faction, Chaos Knights. In my experience, personally, Chaos Knights are solid. They're a lot better than Imperial Knights for sure. I
Absolutely.
think their big models need some points cuts,
Welcome
but
everybody. Welcome to Late Night Hobbies. We just got rated. Cody. Nicholas rated us. That was pretty cool.
cool.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Chaos Knights. I think they need Their big knights need points drops, but they're another army. Like people love souping the War Dogs into other Chaos lists, so I don't think you really can touch them. But overall, I think their army is fine. They just, like I said, I think they need tweaks to the big models. I know you've played them a couple times. What do you have any thought?
I think they're really in a fairly good place as they are. I think what they need is probably for some of the large stuff to come down the same as Imperial Knights, but I don't think it needs to come down as much as Imperial Knights because a lot of those are just stronger, way stronger. Particularly the stratagem to move two armigers through buildings through models is relentlessly oppressive as far as controlling the board because it's such a hey, I'm out of position. I'm going to spend a command point and just, not be out of position anymore. And there's not really anything you can do about it. There is no hiding. There is no running. It's just, oh, you're 2 buildings away and you're screening. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to move 14 inches through all of that, and then I'm still going to make a 12-inch charge attempt. Sorry.
Yeah, Chaos Knights are one of the hardest armies to screen out. I catch myself screening them as I would Imperial Knights all the time, and my opponent would be like, "Don't forget, 1 CP, I can just walk through those models," and then I have to adjust my screen.
It's like, what did you think? The game? Did you think you were walking away with this unscathed?
Yeah, they're a problem, or they could be if GW touches them too much.
Well,
like we both said, I think they just need some points cuts to big knights, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think points cuts to big knights all around the board. I don't think any Armiger class knights really need to be messed with. I don't think the super large ones need to be messed with because, frankly, I could spend the rest of my life without ever fighting a Porphyrion again, and I wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, agreed. Next, Death Guard. Do you have any experience with Death Guard in 10th?
Somebody was running them at Madison, and they did really well. And I was looking at the kind of stuff he was running, little vehicle heavy and everything like that. I think that Death Guard is in a pretty good place. I think that some minor points cuts would help it get closer to that 50% threshold. But it's like
They're just not very deadly. They don't put out a lot of damage.
Well, I mean, they've never been that. They're super tanky. I'm just gonna, like I said the other day, -1 to weapon skill is not in any other codex index. It doesn't exist anywhere else, and it's a strong ability because it's something that melee armies haven't been built to deal with. They don't have a lot of pluses or ignores because nothing specifically modifies your attacks in melee. There's a hell, stealth is literally ranged only. Obviously, you got a couple few minuses to hit, but the minus to the weapon skill gives you the potential to throw a -2 in melee at units that just don't have anything that they're just not prepared to deal with that. You jump into melee with some Death Guard, and all of a sudden you went from hitting on 3s to hitting on 5s and re-rolling 1s, and it's like, how did these rules go from really good to really bad with a -2 just like that? And I think that Death Guard is super tanky. I think they lack lethality, like Clay was saying.
I disagree. So Death Guard were my only loss in Valdosta. And the reason I lost to them, my one loss at the GT, was plain and simple. I did not respect at all Death Guard's ability to punch me back. And so, I came out into the board as I would any army I don't respect, and they hit me in the mouth so hard when I tell you, like I'm talking, Mike Tyson uppercut, like it, it floored me. I was
Sorry.
like what, 30 plague marines coming out on you will mess your day up. Let me tell you. It's a combination of things too. Like the units, they have decent weapons. One of their big downfalls though is they're slow.
Right.
But
Which
they get around that with transports.
much more effective in melee fighting than in range fighting.
For sure. Like Tau would pick them apart, but any kind of army that wants to get in there and scrap with them, like, good lord. What was that?
So you're about to get fucked.
Yeah, like 30 plague marines with access to free grenades. Their guns aren't bad. They charge you, and like they have multiple power fists. Like their characters can hit. They have fight first everywhere. Like they are a problem. So yeah, I strongly disagree with the game. I think Death Guard is in a really good spot. I think GW nailed their rules rewrite in the last Status League. I think they nailed it.
It has more to do with their speed. It's an easy. It's one of those armies that it's like they're like you said. It's about respect. You can snowball Death Guard, but you have to know how to
Morty
snowball.
is not good.
Do what?
Sorry, I saw a chat. Morty. He's the worst of the Primarchs. We're not gonna get into that.
We're not even doing that. Get that shit out of ban him and get him out of here.
But yeah, they're able to get around their movement though by having the rhinos, because rhinos have the open top keyword, so they can be shooting you while the rhino is moving around. They have flamers in the unit, so it makes approaching the rhinos difficult. And then they just come out of the rhinos. They gain 3 inches coming out, so the rhinos really negate their lack of speed and help their playstyle so much.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like I said, I'm not an army I have the most experience with, but just the couple games that I've seen, that's just what I saw.
It was my first game playing against Death Guard. Like I say, I thought what everybody else said was true. Oh, Death Guards, they don't kill anything. They're just hard to kill. And boy, was I wrong.
Well, so Death Guard, I feel like Death Guard is such a good matchup into talking about Black Templars. I feel like Death Guard mollywops.
Yeah, they were a really good hard counter. Now, I will say, I learned a lot from the one game. And with that, I finished 9th at Valdosta out of 65 people. The one guy I lost to playing Death Guard finished 5th. So, and I know him. He's a fantastic player. So, there was definitely some player skill involved. But yeah, the fight firsts everywhere was such a pain in my butt.
I didn't even realize they had that.
Yeah, they have characters they can just throw in units and give the unit fight first. It's real fun.
But yeah, they're definitely not taking home a lot of prizes, but I think they're in a pretty good place.
Agreed. Death Watch. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on them because I don't really know much about them. I just know they're not good.
I heard once when the edition was coming out and people thought they were going to drop like 40 mortal wounds at a deep strike, but that didn't end up happening.
Well, GW nerfed it before it really happened. I wish they would have done it with Eldari, but yeah, I'm sure there's some change that could be made Death Guard that will make them viable, but I'm not going to get into it.
Because honestly, nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. Drukhari. So I think Drukhari, personally, are a prime candidate for the Death Guard treatment. I think GW has a prime. I think they nailed the Death Guard. I think they could do a rules rewrite, a massive rules rewrite for Drakari, and could save Drakari.
Well, I mean, it's like because all they did for Death Guard was they like added to it, and I think that
agreed.
something that would be really good for Drakari. Just add another rule, add another layer, leave everything how it is. Everybody's pretty much happy with how it is. Add another layer, and see what happens. And I think it could be the difference that a lot of Drukari players need right now. But I think the points cuts that they did, kind of like for Tau, fixed a lot of the issues. But I do feel like they need another step up to really get back into the game the way that everybody else is. You know?
Yeah. What top 8 at LVO are we talking about being a fluke? In the chat. But yeah, on Drakari, Drakari is handicapped by the fact that they have one good weapon profile, the Dark Lance, and that's it. The rest of their army just hits like a wet noodle.
Oh, you talking about the thing on those like floating guys that look like something out of the Arabian Nights?
Well, Dark Lance, it's a profile like even their regular infantry can carry like 1 per unit or something. It's basically just a las cannon. I think it's like strength 12 minus 3 d6 plus 1 damage or something.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. And so like you can kind of spam those in a list, but at the end of the day, if I've got to dodge 10 of those, okay.
It's like
and I'll just hoover your army. Death Watch made top 8 at LVO. I think you're mistaken, Ronnie. I think I know Black Templars made top 8. I don't think there were 2 Marines that made top 8. Could be wrong, for sure. Another army that I know little about, Gene Stealer Cult.
yeah,
No, they're like AdMac. Nobody plays them. Like nobody cares.
I mean, it's kind of that thing where it's like, look, man, if you ain't fought him, I sure as hell ain't fought him.
I go to a lot of tournaments, multi-day tournaments, and I can honestly say between Warzone and Valdosta, which was about 170 players total, there may have been like 2 Gene Stealer Cult players, and that may be a stretch. So I honest to God, I've only ever seen them, but I've only ever played them once in all of 40K, my 40K games. So I don't really know what to say about them. They were a bully. Clearly GW did something right because they're no longer a bully. So I don't know that they necessarily need nerfs unrolled or what they got going on, but yeah. Army I do know a little about is Grey Knights. You've played Grey Knights a few times, haven't you?
Yes.
So,
they are incredibly tough, and their army rule is incredibly good, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, so Grey Knights, in my opinion, are a fantastic army rule backed up by fantastic defense, but they can't punch their way out of a wet paper stack. Like they have 0 killing ability.
Yeah, you're talking about not being lethal. Grey Knights are not lethal.
Yeah, the last time I played Grey Knights, I was playing Tyranids, and I beat them 100 to like 28 and lost maybe 3 models. Like they've got big problems. Well, I say big problems. I think they just need a couple more units, and it would help. Because currently they try to play the dance around the board and score a bunch of points, but that's hard to do when you don't have enough units. And once people get their hands on you, you just go to sleep.
So another points drop is what we're thinking.
I think so.
Gotcha.
Because you can't do anything with their rules. Their rules are phenomenal. Like, what could you do?
Yet again, huge advocate for if you're not going to increase your strength, lethal hits makes things really consistent throughout a game.
Agree. I feel like we've already talked about Leagues of Otan a good bit. I think they're fine.
Let's just let them have their.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, I've played them twice at pretty intense games. Both of them were. I sweated my butt off, but they're fine. Orcs. So I think Orcs is another army I don't personally think will get much change tomorrow, because they have a codex coming out very soon.
Yeah.
One thing I think they desperately need though is the ability to call WA on a command phase instead of the beginning of a battle round. Just take it back to 9th edition.
I don't disagree with that. I can get behind that. Also because I thought in 9th edition, didn't it last 2 turns?
No, but it felt kind of like it lasted longer because you could, like, if you were going second, you could call it in your turn and then have it, like, basically, it would be active in 2 battle rounds. I mean, it was still the same amount of time, but it was better. It felt better. And I know Ryan is a huge advocate for that change in particular. Yeah, I didn't think Death Watch was top 8 LVO. But yeah, they did have a high win percentage. But yeah, Orcs also, in my opinion, a lot of their units don't hit as hard as they used to. And so I'm interested to see their codex.
Well, I'm excited for a lot of things.
Yeah. Space Wolves. My best friend plays Space Wolves. I play them almost once a week. The pups need help desperately.
They need a codex.
Yeah, they need a codex because multiple of their data sheets need fixing. Wolfen are unplayable.
Needs to go.
What was that?
Champions of Rust also needs to go in the fucking
Yeah,
trash.
it's garbage. In my opinion, all the Space Wolf specific data sheets just suck. They absolutely suck. The only one that's decent is Thunderwolf Cav.
Yeah.
But even them, like, it's like the 18 Thunderwolf Cav list, everybody thought it was going to be good until they tried to move 18 Thunderwolf Cavalry around a GW terrain board and realized you just can't.
Right.
I believe about the only army we have left is Tyranids.
I think a lot of models come down in points, but I don't think really huge changes for them, honestly.
Yeah, so with their codex being so new, I don't think you'll get any kind of rule changes. I think certain units need drastic points changes. Like the Tyrannifex in particular, like, drop that sucker 50 points, and I might take it. Swarmlord dropping 40 points. Like, there are just certain units in Tyranids that are kind of pivotal because I think the Tyrannifex is a key aspect of a Tyranid list because it does give us the ability to punch up because we lack that, but you just can't take it right now. They're awful for their points, but if they're 190 with that profile, I would take 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Swarmlord's another one. Like, he's such a pivotal part of the army, but you just can't take him right now because he's 270 points and can't kill a Space Marine unit efficiently. So,
if Farsight doesn't get 5 attacks when the codex comes out, I'm gonna be pissed. If Farsight can't kill a 5-man block of Space Marines without help, I'm gonna be pissed.
Uh,
Shit is fucking stupid.
so that is the end of the armies. Overall, I'm pretty hopeful for tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Good to see what happens. I'm excited to see what changes and how everything fares after a couple weeks of another balanced day. Like, obviously, huge things aren't going to be common, but I think one or two. I think we're probably going to see, because we haven't even talked about things like core rules, and not that we'll have time tonight, but it's entirely possible that we see. Brody was telling me that he heard somebody talking about uh, command reroll being a battle tactic is a typo, and that you're not supposed to be able to still do that for free. So they're getting rid of that. Now, I'd love to see if that's reality or fiction.
Yeah, so well, I'm not even gonna say a lot. A few tournaments have ruled that because the way command reroll is worded, it basically doesn't work like a battle tactic. So I I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or another. Uh, the only thing I've heard from a very reliable source about the data slate is Eldari will not be a faction tomorrow. Like I've heard they're getting put in the fucking graveyard and they're getting buried.
All right, that's some strong words.
Yeah.
But
So you want to end it on
I think
what has you excited for 2024 Warhammer?
What has me excited for 2024 Warhammer? Farsight getting 5 attacks. Please. Oh, God. Give him 5. I'm so tired of this shit. Because you're relying on Tank Shock to be his 5th attack. And it's never enough. It's never enough.
Yeah, I believe tonight he went into a 5-man Marine unit and didn't wipe it.
Do what?
I said didn't tonight he went into a 5-man Marine unit and didn't wipe it.
He always goes into a 5-man Marine unit and doesn't wipe it because he doesn't make 5 attacks. Yeah. And after saving throws, it's like 4 attacks from a character in melee is no threat. It's laughable. It's laughable.
Especially when it's the only source of melee in the army.
Fucking 5 attacks for Farsight. Honestly, can't wait till the Codex comes out. Hope he gets a lot more. But yeah, I think 10th edition's getting in a better and better place every day. We've certainly come a long way from people talking this was like a 1-year edition of the game and they were just going to drop it and here's to 11th, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think 10th edition personally came out of the gates pretty shaky with I don't know how familiar you are with the tournament stats that Eldari put up, but
I'm very familiar.
Yeah, I mean the most broken point of 9th edition Drukhari Summer. Drukhari won 63 GT or higher level events in a 9-month period, and in the first 3 months of 10th edition, Eldari won 67. So definitely came out pretty shaky.
Not just that, I think a lot of people were unhappy with the way they were, the direction that the game was taking. I think a lot of people were unhappy with some index just were not looking good when shit came out. The changes to toughness and everything left a lot of, it shook up a lot of things. Obviously for my army, the biggest example of that was the Riptide's using the same data sheet as it had before, but we're not playing the same game that we were before. And there's a lot of things that were like that. But over time, things have gotten fixed, things have gotten changed, things look a lot better. And while there are still some models that it's like, do you guys realize this is one of your plastic battle suits, right? Like, y'all know you want to sell this one, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think the game is in a pretty good spot, a pretty solid spot at the moment. I think it could be, if GW makes the right changes tomorrow, I think it could be in a fantastic spot. So pretty excited.
Here's to Resin Fulgrim. Fucking god. Most epic troll in announcement history. Next thing you know, they'll be putting out a Kroot detachment with a whole range of models. Oh, shit.
Here's to Codex Kroot.
Here's to Codex Kroot. Anyway, this has been Late Night Hobbies, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Join the official Discord if you're interested in getting in on the conversation, and we will put up a stream schedule going over when we'll be on here next. And I've been Tony.
I've been Cody.
And we'll talk to you guys another time.